Hello and welcome to another horror pickups video. Now you may have noticed that we didn't do one last month in March. That's because I only got like a handful of things. So I thought, because I've only got like a small amount of things, I'll just roll it into April. And we've ended up with like a massive amount of stuff to show off in this video, because April was a bit of a bumper month. So without further ado, we will start with the March stuff. Okay, first off is the House collection from Anchor Bay on Blu-ray. This contains all four of the House films. If you see them there, they're upside down. Right there, House 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you get a lovely little book there as well, with a load of stuff inside. You've got like articles about each film, about the making of, and loads and loads and loads of cool stuff there. That's a really, really nice, well-produced book. And if you haven't checked out the films before, it's well worth doing. The House 1, 2, and 4, they have kind of like a certain humour to them, similar to like a Evil Dead style humour. A little bit, almost verging on slapstick sometimes, but never quite crossing that line, but still quite humorous. House 3 is a bit of a different deal. House 3 wasn't originally part of the House series when they made it. They decided to like capitalize on the House franchise after the film had been made, and retitled it from the horror show to House 3. So it is now officially part of this series, even though it wasn't planned that way. And it kind of shows as well, because it's very, very different in tone to the other films. House 3 is really, really quite a dark film, and it certainly doesn't feel like it belongs with the others. But that's what we've got. The Blu-ray here is actually the first time that House 3 has been released uncut, because, well, not it's the first time it's been released uncut in widescreen, because Anchor Bay did a DVD set like a few years back. In fact, this is Arrow, by the way. I think I mistakenly said that this is from Anchor Bay a few minutes ago. The DVD set was from our Anchor Bay, and they mistakenly used a cut version of the film when they were making the DVDs, even though House 3 had been passed uncut by the BBFC at that point. So the only way to get an uncut version of House 3 in this country was to buy a DVD from another company, but it wasn't in widescreen, it was in full screen. So this is the first time that we've been able to get House 3 in full widescreen uncut quality, and on Blu-ray as well. So that's a bonus. So that was the House collection. What else we've got? We've got a couple books. These were picked up from a charity shop, I do believe. It's been quite a while since I picked these up. I think I got them from charity shop. In fact, yes, it says the price on the back, so yes, I did. House of Fear, which is a haunted house anthology series, and sorry, an anthology series. I mean anthology collection. And I always like horror anthologies, because you get like a lot of different styles in one book, even though they're all kind of like generally on one kind of like unified theme. But I'm always into haunted house stuff, so that's good. And I also picked up Weezer, a novel. Now this is the book that the film is based on. I didn't really like the film, but I'm hoping that the book is like slightly better than the film. The film just wasn't really appealing to me at all. It was similar to kind of like quite a lot of modern horror films. A lot of the same tropes, and it just didn't really do anything for me. I did do a video on horror tropes like quite a while back, if you want to check that out. But it's yeah, it was quite disappointing. But like I said, hopefully the book is better. And the last thing for March I have down here is the vinyl soundtrack for Psycho. Now, Psycho is absolutely fantastic film. It's certainly one of my favourite Hitchcock films. My absolute favourite Hitchcock film is Vertigo. but this is decent as well. But the problem is this release, it doesn't really sound all that good. It's quite distorted in places. Some parts of it seem to play at the wrong speed as well. I mean, it looks nice enough. It's on red vinyl. But I personally don't think they did a good job with this. It certainly doesn't sound remastered, and it actually sounds better in the film than it does on this soundtrack. Because I've listened back to parts of the soundtrack in the film, and they're not distorted on there. So I'm not sure why they're distorted on this. But you know, sometimes you get good releases, sometimes you don't. Unfortunately, this one wasn't a brilliant one. I mean, I still like it for the cover. The cover's really, really nice. But I probably will look for reviews first if I'm buying anything else from the company that put this out. Because yeah, I was a bit disappointed with this. It was only £10 though, so I didn't lose too much on it. And that was everything from March. So you can see why I didn't want to do like one single video for just for March. I wanted to roll everything in to this second one. So we're going to go into the April stuff. I've got a lot of stuff here. I will start with the films and DVDs. We got Hannibal series 1, 2, and 3. Now I watched series 1 a long time back, and I really enjoyed it. In terms of kind of like modern horror TV series, this is definitely up there with something like American Horror Story, and I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to pick up all 3, and I've worked my way through season 2, which certainly ended in a very interesting way. If you've seen it, you'll know what I mean. And I've yet to touch season 3, but I'm really looking forward to that. From what I understand, part of season 3 touches on the Red Dragon novel, so it kind of like goes from being a prequel series into kind of like getting into the books. So I am looking forward to that. And what I actually want to do is read the books. Once again, I actually picked up from a charity shop. Well, I got 2 of these from a charity shop, one online, and I've got Red Dragon there, Sounds of the Lambs, and Hannibal. So what I wanted to do is like read these and see if they kind of work using the cast from the TV show. Because obviously when you watch these films, as they are at the minute, the films that were made from these books, you've got Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. You have I forget all the actors' names like off the top of my head, but most of the people that are in this are actually characters from the books, and I want to read the books with those characters in mind. So that I thought that would be quite an interesting thing to do, which is why I picked up the books. The film of Red Dragon is it is decent. It kind of suffers from having an obviously older Anthony Hopkins playing a younger version of the character, but he's not really in it all that much. It's more about this tooth fairy killer and Will Graham trying to catch him. Silence of the Lambs is one of my favourite horror films. Now, it kind of suffers from something that happened quite a lot in the 80s and 90s, whereas if you had a really popular horror film that didn't have supernatural elements, then they kind of like steered the promotion away and called it a thriller instead of a horror. But it is absolutely a horror film. I mean, it's about a guy who basically is making clothing out of human skin. He's kidnapping women and making clothing out of their skin. So that is, obviously horror. You can't really say that it's not. Like I said, I really do enjoy the film. In terms of kind of like, it does have its problems. if you're looking for a positive representation of transgender people, then do not look for Silence of the Lambs, because it will not kind of like give you that. It paints the one transgender character as quite like dangerous individual, but aside from that, it is otherwise like a really solid film. And if you haven't seen it, then I suggest you pick it up. This one, Hannibal. Now, despite having the same name as the TV series, this is actually like set quite a bit later, and I didn't enjoy this film. It's got a different woman playing Clarice Starling instead of Jodie Foster. You have I forget her name, but you know who I mean if you've seen it. You've still got Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal, but it seems a little bit hokey. There's one particular scene with Ray Liotta towards the end, which almost veers into slapstick. And it just doesn't fit the tone of the previous stuff at all, unfortunately. But I'm sure that the book is probably better than the film is. So at some point I will get to those. So what else did I get? I got 2 films this month. I'm just going to take a quick drink. I finally got myself a working VHS player again, because my last one chewed up a couple tapes, so it kind of went in the bin. So I decided to get another one. And my first 2 films I picked up were The Uncanny, Peter Cushing. This is a anthology film, a portmanteau film about basically killer cats. Peter Cushing wants to write a book. Well, he has written a book. He's taken the book to a publisher, talking about the dangers of cats. It's kind of like an expose that is written about cats being evil. And to illustrate his point, he talks about 3 stories, and those stories make up like 3 short films within the film, all about evil killer cats. So it's quite an enjoyable little film. And I hadn't heard of it before, but I was trawling eBay for videotapes, and that was cheap, so I thought, why not give it a go, and I quite enjoyed it. This one I've not actually watched yet, The Devil Within Her. Now, this particular film, I have memories of my dad recommending this film to me about 25 years ago, saying that it was like really decent. The trouble is, there are like 3 films with this title, The Devil Within Her, and I'm hoping that's the one that he was talking about. I have no idea. I'll have to check with him on that. But again, that was pretty cheap, and you know, I wanted to see if it is as scary as he said it is, which it probably isn't. I mean, horror films have moved on since the 80s. I mean, I'm not putting down 80s horror films at all, but they don't tend to be particularly subtle in terms of atmosphere. In general, you get the obvious, like 1 or 2 which really nail it. Stuff like The Shining really nails the atmosphere. But there were like a hell of a lot of slasher films in the 80s which were almost comedy in some aspects, with how they just kind of like wanted to up each other's kill count and like outgore everyone else, which it just started getting a bit ridiculous. But this film certainly sounds atmospheric, so you know, maybe it'll be decent, maybe it won't be. We'll find out. Okay, so on to some books. Some more books. Got a lot of books this month. I picked this bundle up from eBay. This is a collection of anthology horror books called Best New Horror. Now, I already have a couple volumes of this, but I saw this going for cheap, and I don't have any of these. So we've got Best New Horror for... That one doesn't say it on the front, but it's number 8. That one is number 10. And we've got number 17 as well. Um, Again, like I said, I enjoy anthology horror books because there's usually like quite a varied amount of like different writers in there, a lot of different styles, and even if you don't like one story, you're probably going to like the next one or the one after that. And it's a good way of kind of like introducing yourself to authors as well. Um, quite a lot of times I've read an anthology book, found an author that I really liked, and then gone out to buy a whole lot more by that author. So it's a good advertisement, really. So that was those books. Now the last thing, I think this is the last thing. No, it's not. It's not actually. I'm mistaken there. I got these a couple of days ago. There's quite a lot of these here. See if I can create a bit of a shelf. There, okay. Back in the 80s, I think it's the 80s, let me just double check. No, the 90s, sorry. Back in the 90s, horror magazines were kind of like quite a big thing. You had like some, you had two main ones, Shivers and Fangoria. And one of this one, Gore Zone, this is an offshoot of Fangoria, which is one of the major ones from the 90s, and this basically focuses, as you can probably tell from the original, I mean from the title, this focuses more on the graphic side of horror films. So I managed to pick up, I think there's 12 of these. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. Some basket case too. That is an absolutely ridiculous film, but it's fun. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. That is a special UK edition of the magazine. I'm not entirely sure if that's by the same company actually, because the original Gore Zone is a US magazine, but that does say the Ultimate UK Horror Magazine on the front, so I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, that's 13, and a lot of these come with posters. Well, the posters have actually been detached, and I got like a bag of posters with them as well. I'm not going to open them all up, but there's like so many posters there of so many different horror films. So I've not actually gone through those yet to actually see what they are, but I will do, and maybe I'll put 1 or 2 of them up. Although if they are as graphic as the stuff in the magazine, then maybe not. But I paid £13.50 for all of that, including postage, which I thought was pretty decent, just over £1 a magazine. So that was a really good deal. I've already got quite a large collection of Fangoria and Shivers as well. But it's always nice to have like old magazines so you can look through, introduce yourself to films that you've not seen before, and read about the behind the scenes stuff of some of your favourite films. So they're always worth picking up if you find them cheap. Now the very last thing we have here is another record, a vinyl soundtrack for Silent Hill. Now this was released just over a week ago actually, and I pre-ordered this. Not too long ago. The pre-orders went up about 3 weeks ago, I think, for the release last week, and this is something that I have on CD already, but I really enjoy the Silent Hill series, so I wanted to pick this up on vinyl as well. This is already going for a hell of a lot more than what I paid for on eBay. I will not show you the inside because it does have artwork of a Baphomet kind of creature who's quite clearly female and naked. So I won't show you that, but I will show you the vinyl itself. This is probably one of the most striking looking records that I've ever seen. it was released in two variants. You've got one on black vinyl and one which they call snow coloured. This is the snow variant, and as you can see, that is it's just an incredible looking record. I won't show you the other one. The other one is exactly the same as this, and it looks absolutely fantastic on the turntable. Generally speaking, coloured vinyl or picture disc or stuff like that, they don't tend to sound as good, and there are like one or two pops and clicks on this that you wouldn't expect from a new record, but I'm sure that giving it a good clean will kind of like reduce that and make it sound as good as black vinyl. Just pop that back in there. So yeah, I'm really happy that I picked that up, and I hope they actually do Silent Hill 2 as well, because Silent Hill 2 is my favourite video game of all time. It's got a fantastic soundtrack, and in fact any of the Silent Hill video games have really decent soundtrack, apart from Downpour wasn't great, but all of the ones with the soundtrack by Akira Yamakura, what's his name? Let me just double check. I should know this, seeing as I'm a big fan of the guy. It does not want to say, but Akira Yamaoka. That's the guy's name. It momentarily left my head. Any of the soundtracks that he did are definitely worth picking up. 2, 3, 4, Origins, Homecoming. What was the other one? Shattered Memories. All worth picking up if you see them. So I hope they get the vinyl treatment as well. And I think that's everything. I mean, I've got a pile of stuff around me, and I think I've got everything in these piles. Yes, I have. I've shown you absolutely everything. Apologies for this being like a rather long video. We're at like 22 minutes. But like I said, I didn't want to do like a March video because I only have those 4 things, so I wanted to put it all into one. I just didn't expect to have so much stuff in April. Not all months are going to be this good. Like I said, March was tiny. May probably will be as well, but we'll see. If I don't do a May video, you'll know it's because I'm going to like roll into the next one, because I've only got like 1, 2 things, or indeed nothing. So look out for that. If it exists, then watch it. If it doesn't exist, then wait for June, and I'm sure there'll be one up in June. So yeah, that was my massive haul for March and April. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time.